I love Paris in the morning. I love Paris in the fall. Oh, hello. Welcome back to another episode of Rex, the Adequate Chef. Tonight I decided that after making my boeuf bourguignon, I had a little bit of my top round left over. I was thumbing through Julia's cookbook and I found beef stroganoff. And she says it's a quick and easy meal that you can make, which is very good, and generally under 30 minutes if you have some of the stuff prepped. So join me tonight while I go through the steps of making beef stroganoff out of Julia Child's Mastering the Art of French Cooking. As always, this is the first time I've ever made this recipe, and actually I just decided to make it approximately about 2 hours ago. So come with me through each and every step, every burn, every cut, and hopefully sometime you can make it yourself and enjoy every taste as well. Come on, let's cook. Okay, well, as you can see, we're pretty much ready. Now, I took the liberty to go ahead and measure out some of the more basic ingredients. I am going to leave some of this. I have decided, instead of like some shows that go through a lot of the prep and have decided to not show you what to do, I'm actually going to do that. You don't have to watch the prep if you don't want to, but you know, some people just don't get it. I'm going to go ahead and cut these mushrooms. We're going to quarter up our mushrooms. Now, if you haven't, I'm not going to go really into much detail on the mushrooms. If you just watched my last episode, it's exactly how to saute, how you can quarter, wash. You always want to have dry mushrooms for proper browning. So if you really want to get into that, then definitely check out that recipe. But we got a 1/2 pound of mushrooms here, and I'm going to quarter those up as you, oh, actually, I just messed up. We actually want to slice these, and I've already quartered them. I'm going to go ahead and slice them, and hope somehow. Okay, I've pretty much recovered from my mistake. You know, I've said it time and time again, read your recipes so you know exactly what you're doing. Because what I did was I'd read this recipe a couple of times. This is sort of a short notice that I was going to make this, and I just started quartering the mushrooms. So it took me a little bit longer to go back and take all those quarters, turn them into slices, but as you can see, voila, with the power of video editing, I am done. Of course, I could have bought these from the store, but with that let me zoom in, because I got that awesome zoom feature, that would have sort of defeated the whole process. So, we now have sliced mushrooms. Okay, now the recipe calls for 3 tablespoons of a minced shallot or a green onion. I went ahead and bought a shallot. As with the onions, which I showed you in a previous episode, I'm going to zoom in for you, let you see what I'm talking about. Nice and close here. Is you can see that here, there's the end where it's actually grown, and here's the other end. So we're going to leave the grown end intact. I'm going to cut any dead remaining off of that end. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut nice lines through this shallot. Now there might be some chefs out there that watch me and say, he's an idiot. Which, you know, hey, I might be. Then I'm going to try to cut it this way. Now, I've never done it like this before. But as you can see, I've made cuts this way and this way, and by leaving that end on and not cutting all the way through, it's going to hold it together for me. So now I can come in here and make some really nice cuts on this. And get some good fine cuts without it falling apart, and I have a lot better grip on it. So remember that when you're holding your knife, just pinch the blade with your thumb and your forefinger and make sure my pinky's out of the way. I'm going to go right through this. Excellent. And there you do. There you do. There you have it. Woo! Eyes are burning. I would say it's approximately, maybe just a tad more, of 3 tablespoons of minced shallot. But right now, that's close enough for government work. Let me find a handy dandy little bowl and we'll just toss those right in. Alright, we're going to move straight in. Let me go over some of the ingredients here for you. You've seen this. I need to zoom out. I've got a tablespoon over here of olive oil. I've got a tablespoon of cooking oil. I have a 1/4 cup of a white dry vermouth. I have a 3/4 cup of a brown beef stock. We have 1 cup of a heavy cream, and I got 2 tablespoons, or 2 teaspoons rather, of a cornstarch, which we're going to mix in with some cream later. So my sous chef Bullseye is about to start barking on me, so hopefully we can keep him quiet. Let's move on. Alright, then we're going to get into the beef. Basically we want 2.5 pounds of beef. Different choices, a filet. This is actually a tenderloin, and this is a top round. Now, the top round here is what I had left over from the Boeuf Bourguignon, which you guys just watched on, should have watched it on Friday, if I can get everything posted. I'm just going to cut off, I'm just trimming up this meat, getting anything that might be tough or fatty off. Okay, I've cleaned up the fat and the stuff off the meat. Now basically what we want to do is I've removed the fat and the filament. We're going to cut the fillets into about 2-ounce pieces. So we want them about 2 inches across and about 1/2 inch thick. So I'm going to go ahead and cut the 1/2 inch portions. There's one. Let's do about another 1/2 inch here. There's 2. Alright, that's good. So what we're going to do at this point, we want them in about 2 inches, which is about right there. Two inches across and 1/2 inch thick. And we're back. So I've got everything cut. Once again, we're going to dry all these pieces. I'm just going to throw it in some paper towels, dry them off really well. There's some blood in the bottom of the bowl here. Make sure that's out. We're getting ready to cook, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to finish drying this meat. We're going to get you a closer look to the stove, and then we'll be back. Okay, I will definitely edit through this because I'm going to saute the mushrooms just like I did in the last episode. So basically what we're going to do is I'm going to saute the mushrooms. When we're done, I'm going to throw these shallots in, season them, and we're going to come back to you. I recommend, if you didn't catch my mushroom episode, you want dry mushrooms, throw them in. Number 1 rule, if those of you that watched the last one and know, you don't crowd the mushrooms. So we're just going to quickly throw them in. You see that? They're nice going. They're not going to crowd. They're not going to steam this way. We're going to get a good cook on them. So hang tough. I'll be back. We'll go from there. Thanks. Okay, now you're going to notice a couple of things that don't seem right. I'm probably wearing a different shirt, at least I hope I am. And you're going to see a different pot when we go back to the stove because something happened to the film, and once the mushrooms went in, I don't know where the rest of the footage went. So I'm recooking the dish for you so you can get, because first let me tell you, the dish was absolutely delicious. That's one reason why I'm redoing it. But for a second, I need to finish this video and get it out to you guys. So let's go see what we got. Got me a grease splatter screen here. I'm just finishing up the rest of these mushrooms. I'm going to go ahead and put in what I've already cooked back in here. Get those going. Once you get these down, which they're done, you go ahead and you bring in the shallots that we cut up. And we're going to go ahead and put in the shallots. Cook these for about 3 to 4 minutes more. Going to put in our salt, about a 1/4 teaspoon of salt right there. And just a pinch of pepper. So a good pinch of pepper, huh? And we'll just saute those up. That's looking really good. Now that the sauteing and the mushrooms are done, I'm going to remove it to a side dish, and I'm going to move on to browning the beef. Alright, so we've got high heat back on the stove, and we're going to move into the beef. We need about a tablespoon of olive oil, and a couple of tablespoons of butter. Remember that the olive oil is going to keep the butter from burning. You can see how that's all nice and bubbling. Bought a nice screen to try to limit the amount of splashing. Once that butter subsides, we are going to go ahead and put in our beef. Now I have dried this and I've cut it just like I said in the original video. Alright. Now you see it's still all bubbly. Once those bubbles go down, we are ready to lay in our beef. Now this is going to be, we're going to brown our beef for 2 to 3 minutes per side depending on your liking. Go ahead and just set the timer here. A couple of these pieces are a little smaller than I'd hoped, but there's a couple more pieces in there I think. Alright, we're winding down the browning of the meat. I'm going to go ahead and remove the remaining pieces out to a plate. I'm going to pour off the sauteing juices and everything that we use for browning. And at that point we're going to take the white vermouth and the beef stock and we're going to pour that in. And then we're just going to boil that down rapidly. And we're going to scrape off all the coagulated stuff from browning the meat and make a nice reduced sauce out of that. And then we'll pour in the cream and we'll talk at that point. Okay, you'll see here that we have a pretty high heat going, so I'm going to go ahead and pour in. There's the vermouth. Then we're going to measure out 3/4 cup of beef stock. And we're going to wait. We're going to bring that up to a good high boil. And you see how that gumpy stuff's on the sides? We want to try to get some of that off because that's going to make a really nice sauce once this comes to a boil. One of the hardest things for me to do is actually render down the sauce. She said to put the vermouth in, and then you put in the beef stock, and you brown that down, boil it down, pardon me, until you got to 1/3 of a cup. And it's been going for quite some time, and naturally I want to just go ahead and move to the next step. But if you don't do that, then your sauce isn't going to be the right consistency, which is what I've noticed in my boeuf bourguignon and the other dishes that I've created as well. So I'm going to sit on this one, and I'm going to make sure I boil that sucker down. Okay, I think we are there at this point. It says to beat in the cream, so I'm going to slowly bring in the cream. There we go. That's 1 cup of cream, in case you missed it in the beginning. All right, at this point, that's going to start to come to a boil and simmer. We're going to take the cream that we mixed with our cornstarch. We're going to mix this in as well. Don't want that to truly boil like it is, so I want to bring that down. At this point, we're going to bring back in our sautéed mushrooms and shallots. We're going to drop those in. Oh yeah, that's good. Notice it's thickened, exactly what you want. You want nice thickened sauce. That is absolutely perfect. At this point, we're supposed to taste it. At this point, we should taste it for seasoning. I'm not adding anything, that's delicious. All right, we're going to bring our beef back over. We're just going to season it slightly, just with some salt and pepper. A smidge of salt. I use kosher salt. And we're going to bring this right back in, and we're going to add the beef. Now notice the juices that came out. You definitely want to add those back into the dish. So go ahead, bring all of that back in. And then what we want to do is we want to baste this beef in this cream sauce. Just like that. Nice, good, and covered. Careful when grabbing hot surfaces. And we're just going to baste this down. And we're done. Let's zoom you in. That's in the pot. You can obviously put it into a casserole pan at this point to serve it over rice. That's definitely what I did. I've done some nice brown rice. We're going to put this on top, and then we're going to see how it tastes. Okay, second time's a charm, right? Here I have it. Nice. It's very hot and steamy. I'm probably going to burn the tar out of my mouth when I bite this. This is a delicious dish. This dish is delicious. I really recommend you try it at home. It's one of my favorites so far. It's easy to do. Literally, I think you can get the whole thing with the rice. If you do a brown rice, 45 to 50 minutes tops. Quick meal, really good. See you next time. Here's the after meal wrap up. Right here, see those two blisters? When you're dropping stuff in hot grease, It burns, FYI. Now, for what did I do wrong? Julia told me to cook the meat for 2 to 3 minutes. I looked at it and thought the pieces are too thin, and I'm only going to cook them for, say, a minute or so and then flip them, which is exactly what I did. What did that do? For one, they didn't brown as well as I hoped they would have. But number two, when I cut into them, they were a little bit on the rare side, much more to my liking than to my girlfriend's. Although they weren't oozing blood and it was still a very tasty meal, I would definitely follow the recipe to 2 minutes per side minimum to get a nice pink inside. Other than that, it was a very delicious meal, and I do recommend that you try this recipe. Thanks again.